Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Film Pundits. We are here to bring you guys the latest news in comic book movies and television. My name is Adam Hlavik, and I am joined here by the birthday boy, Mr. Hector Navarro.
It's my birthday today. Probably.
And he's here. I don't know why the hell he's here.
I don't have any plans, man. This is what I want to do on my birthday, on my night. This is so sad.
We've already been talking comic book sweatiness for about the last hour.
It was cool, man. We're good buds.
Yeah, see?
It is my birthday today. The day you are watching it, though, is not my birthday.
Yeah.
It's probably the day after or the day after. It doesn't matter. But thank you, man. That's so nice. Thank you. Happy birthday to me.
Honorable mention to one of the men who's here to help me jumpstart this whole
You know who else's birthday it is today?
Christopher Reeve.
And?
Mark Hamill.
And? Will Smith. That's right.
Oh.
That's right. I had the best birthday ever.
I think there's actually someone else. Someone else who's Michael Douglas's birthday.
Michael Douglas?
Hank Pym's birthday.
Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Dude, I got the best birthay.
You know,
let's get into it, buddy.
God,
Sorry.
all right, let's get into some movie news before I kill this guy. So the first bit comes from Variety. They were reporting that David Ayer, who is directing the upcoming film Fury and wrote Training Day, is the top contender and the most sought-out director right now for Warner Brothers to direct a adaptation of Suicide Squad.
Thank you, Variety. Thank you for doing the research and letting us know, you Hollywood reporter, you. Suicide Squad, yeah. For the fans, why don't you give a quick recap? What is the Suicide Squad? Who are they? What are they? And they're in DC Comics, correct?
Yeah, so they're DC Comics property, and they're basically a group of supervillains who get put into a prison, who are then recruited by the government to go on a mission, with the big twist of this mission being that they likely will not come out of it alive.
Right.
So that's
Suicide Squad, hence the name Suicide Squad.
Exactly. So that's going to be really the big premise.
And why do they go on these missions? Because they're promised a reduced sentence in their sentence. I get the reduced time in their sentence. But it's the group is either called Task Force X. Just rolls off the tongue. Or
those are birthday beers talking.
The Suicide Squad. Birthday beers. I wish. Cool. So what do you think about it, man?
I'm excited for it strictly because of the director, Fury. I've seen the trailers. I think the movie looks very, very good.
The Brad Pitt World War II film?
Yes.
Awesome.
With Shia LaBeouf.
Yep.
I think that movie looks excellent. Training Day was a very well-written movie.
For sure.
It was obviously directed very well also.
This guy gets edgy.
He does.
He gets it.
Definitely. And I think that's the big appeal as to why they want to do it. And I think someone at Warner Brothers has most likely seen Fury, and it's an ensemble piece, and it's a World War II piece, so there's a lot of action, violence, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a big reason why they wanted to approach this guy to do it. So I'm all for it. It's definitely different. I think it's what we were talking about earlier. It's another kind of answer to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Absolutely.
Doing a property that's not the main property of the comic book company.
Because Guardians was so different in terms of the Marvel landscape that DC, I'm sure, is looking at Warner Brothers is looking at their potential properties, and they're like, Suicide Squad. This is something that is different, something that Marvel doesn't really have an equivalent of, which is cool.
Which I think is cool, like to see the opposite side of the spectrum. It's somewhat like doing a Sinister Six movie. But
don't even get me started on that, Adam.
But
it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, it could potentially be a good idea.
Because listen, the Suicide Squad, it's not like they're the villains of like a specific hero.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
like the Sinister Six, they need to fight Spider-Man, and they're trying to do it without Spider-Man, and that pisses me off. But the Suicide Squad, it's like their own. They got their own comic book series back in the day. They were led by Amanda Waller, who's a great character, interesting character, good guy, bad guy. Like I know, such a and they cast such a great. I mean, how are you going to do that to Angela Bassett? How are you going to do that to Tina Turner? All right, it doesn't matter. Look, question then: is this movie going to fit in a larger DC comic book universe that they're maybe setting up with Batman, Superman?
That's a good question. I know it's something we were trying to figure out before. I don't know. I guess it would really depend on the lineup of characters in the Suicide Squad.
Right.
If it doesn't include some of the staples who are in, or not staples, but some characters who are in more recent versions, like Harley Quinn, then I think they could integrate, and then you could see those characters kind of spawn off into movies with the other superheroes.
Yeah.
If you have a character like Harley Quinn, I would almost rather be in its own universe, because like we were saying, we want to see that character first be introduced in a Batman movie.
Some of these villains deserve to be introduced with their heroes first. I would argue that a character like, so Harley Quinn, right, the female companion of the Joker. Why would I say that to you? You know who that is. But she is only recently, in the past couple of years, put on the Suicide Squad. And we have not yet gotten a Harley Quinn in a movie with the Joker yet. And I think that's what we all want to see.
Exactly.
It's going to be years down the line, but we need to start that way. But a character like the other characters, they could be Deadshot. Maybe Captain Boomerang. Like Captain Boomerang is like a Flash villain. He doesn't need to be in a Flash movie. Do you know what I mean? The Flash needs to deal with like Captain Cold, Gorilla Grodd, and then maybe Reverse Flash. Like those should be his like trilogy of movies villains. Captain Boomerang is such a ridiculous, but like put him in the Suicide Squad movie, and if people like him, then he can maybe show up in the Flash movie. Exactly. You know, like, oh, just got out of prison, mate. Like I just did a movie and another mission, and then I just want to do my Australian accent. That's pretty damn good.
It was like almost trying to be Deadpool.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to be Deadpool. Hi, Tom.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Hi Tom, you're not the head of Fox anymore, but pick up the movie. All right, okay, cool. So we're in agreement. Like I think we're both stoked about it.
Yeah,
it could potentially be really cool.
Bryan Singer officially. Cool. Signed X-Men Apocalypse.
This is good.
I'm super excited about it.
This is good. This is really good.
I loved X-Men Days of Future Past.
Not next, no.
May 2016.
2016, great. So they're going to film
right after Deadpool.
This year, next year. They're going to film next year. Good. Like we were saying earlier, after Bryan Singer's like legal problems that went away, as far as we know, this just shows that Fox has faith in him, and they have his back. They're supporting him, which I think is a good sign. I think it's a good sign, not just for the creative X-Men comic book movie, but just like for like humanity. Like, okay, they think he's a good dude. Like, hopefully, then he's a good dude. Like, that's great. But
and he brought them 3 successful X-Men movies.
Of course, man. And Days of Future Past, he killed it. Come on. Of course. So yeah, let's keep it going.
You rebooted a series that you initiated. Because that's
impressive.
That was ruined by other directors.
That's impressive. You know who? Wait, who? What was I going to say? Didn't Martin Campbell do that? With GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Like, he directed GoldenEye, and then they brought him back for Casino Royale. He rebooted his own franchise, he did. And then he went and fucked up Green Lantern real bad. Real bad. So let's not talk about that.
But he made a good Zorro movie.
Yeah, all right. Cool. So, X-Men Apocalypse. Not only did they announce that, but they also have, like, the official synopsis, right? Is that what else is in the news?
Yeah, so the synopsis reads...
It's going to come up right now.
Apocalypse takes place a decade after Days of Future Past.
The 80s.
A seamless next step in the story, which is, yes, the 80s.
The 80s.
The altering of time has unleashed a new and unique powerful enemy.
Oh, shit.
Charles, Magneto, Raven, Wolverine, and Hank are joined by young Cyclops, Storm, Jean, and others as the X-Men must fight their most formidable foe yet. An ancient, unrelenting force determined to cause an apocalypse unlike any in human history.
How do I feel about this? I think it's awesome. I love that they're using the character of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
After X-Men 3 came out and a bunch of characters died and lost their powers, Cyclops died, right? Rogue just decided to take the cure. I just want to touch people. Stupid. Like, right? It was real dumb. And then who else died? Like, Professor X died. Like, Magneto lost his powers. All this BS happened. My idea was like, cool, just do an X-Men 4, bring in Apocalypse, because he can literally do whatever he wants. He can literally kidnap characters and make them his horsemen of the apocalypse, up to 4 of them, and he makes them superpowered. He could give Angel his metal wings. He could do anything. That's what Apocalypse does in the comic books. He just shows up and fucks shit up.
Yeah.
So I was excited. Like, he's like their big bad. So I'm stoked that they're just using him. I think that, like we were saying, 20th Century Fox is making the best possible products they can for what they have to work with.
Absolutely.
Their movie franchise is pretty messed up. They did not foresee how popular these movies were going to be back in 2000 when the first X-Men came out. 2000.
Which was really the first
modern superhero movie. Modern
Marvel
superhero comic book movie. Absolutely.
Property, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'll maybe give it to Blade, 1998.
True.
But that's more of a horror action movie than it is like a straight comic.
It's not like one of the main staples of Marvel comics.
Exactly. Even though I love me some Blade. Yeah. He's great. So cool. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm excited. I like, just like we were talking about earlier, like you were just saying, the chronology and the mythology of X-Men has changed so much from the comics. Now to try to integrate some of the founding members into the X-Men, I think it's good because you have some characters in there that could potentially go away.
At this point, I'm just excited because, look, I love a lot of the cast. I love to see some mutant powers. That's always fun. I think the directing is slick. Bryan Singer does a great job. And then, like I said, I'm a comic book fan, and I would love to see Apocalypse, but because it's so different from the comic books, I'm like, anything goes, dude. They could do whatever. And now, even more so, because it's like a different timeline.
Right.
They could do whatever they want.
They Star Trek their own franchise.
They Star Trek their own franchise. We've seen the 80s in the X-Men movies in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
What movie?
Right. And also a little bit in X-Men The Last Stand.
What movie?
Right. So they could do whatever they want. Yeah. Now they don't necessarily have to go and use a young CG'd Ian McKellen and Petrix. Like yeah, they don't have to do that. They can cast new people. I'm saying they don't have to go and pick up Jean Grey from her neighborhood like they did at the beginning of X-Men 3. They could do whatever. Like, it's all different now.
They're not beholden to any of the history of the previous movies.
Yeah.
Since they've rewritten kind of how how everything took place.
I'm excited.
They can do whatever they want.
Do whatever they want. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
I'm super excited about it. And the other cool thing that they announced is that next year, 2015, they're going to release a exclusive extended cut, but they're going to call it the Rogue Cut.
The Rogue
where they're going to
Cut.
implement all of Anna Paquin's Rogue scenes back in, including like a big action sequence that takes place in the future part, and over 10 minutes of footage.
I've heard what the scene is. I know what it is, what the deleted scene is.
Is it? I think they showed it in the trailer.
Yeah, and it was cut completely for like logical sense in the movie. So it's going to be weird to be watching it next year because I'm going to go see it because I'm an idiot. I'm going to go sit in the theater and watch it, and I'm going to be like, yeah, this is cool, but there's like no reason for this to be happening. Whatever, it's Anna Paquin, I guess. I'm stoked about it. Whatever, it's fine. It's fine. I'll go see X-Men again.
Originally in the it's actually going to be a Blu-ray release, so it won't be in the theater.
It's not going to be in the theaters?
No, not a theater. It'll be a DVD release.
How am I supposed to see my Rogue Cut?
And the interesting thing is, originally in the
should I not buy should I not buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray next
week,
October?
Or next month?
Should I wait for the Rogue Cut?
Why not buy 10 editions of the same movie?
Hey, I do it all the time with everything else.
Star Wars.
Golly, Bob. All right.
But originally in that script, it was supposed to be Rogue playing the Kitty Pryde part.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, having worked on some of the movie, you get to see some of the early versions.
Oh, really?
That's great. You do see actually Anna Paquin's Rogue, doing that thing.
Really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
So it's pretty interesting. But I mean, I like Anna Paquin's character. I like Rogue. I think in some interpretation, a little bit too kind of like whiny for my liking.
Yeah, dude.
Like Rogue, I remember Rogue from the animated series where she was pretty badass character.
Look, here's where I love the Rogue from the movies. At the end of the first movie, when she got all messed up from Magneto and then she got the white streak of hair, and Wolverine's like, "You're gonna keep it," and she's like, "I kind of like it." Yeah, that's a great Rogue.
That was so cool.
And then, but then the Rogue that I really disliked was when she got real racist at the end of X-Men 3, where she was just like, I know I'm a mutant and I was born with these powers and I should accept who I am, but I took the cure anyway.
Yeah.
And that goes against the complete idea of the X-Men. It's like, hey, gay people, if there was a cure for being gay, would you take it? No, that's awful. Hey, black and brown people and Asian people, if there was a cure for not being white, would you want to? No. Yeah, why would you do that? You're the worst, Rogue. You're terrible. Accept who you are. All right, what's next?
So Bruno Heller, who's the showrunner and creator of Gotham, the TV show, which actually just premiered on Monday, and we actually reviewed it. So if you want to check out that review, you can click right here, and it'll take you to the review of Gotham, the pilot that I did with Eric. They're talking about potentially implementing the Joker into the series, which if you watched our review, you know how we feel about overstuffed pilots and characters.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the pilot, I mean, there's a pretty overt reference to a character who could end up being the Joker in the pilot, and that really put a sour taste in my mouth. You know, it's just like, I just wanted it to unfold a little bit more naturally, but it sounds like Bruno agrees.
Yeah, so one of the things that he was saying was, we're going to wait and get the show up and running before we meet the real Joker. We want to get the story right, and we want to be tonally right, and then we'll start thinking about how to bring him in. We will certainly try to surprise people and maybe even trick people. It's one of those expectations that everyone will be waiting for, so you can't just present the guy with a big smile and start telling the story. Not that that would be dull, but that's one of those opportunities to really start playing with this. The core of the show is Gordon, and this is the interesting part that you and I both thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The core of the show is Gordon, but Bruce Wayne will certainly play a much larger part in the show than we had initially thought. Which
lame.
Yeah, I don't want this show to be about Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
I want it to be about James Gordon, Harvey Bullock, their partnership, Gotham City Police Department, and them fighting the underground and the corruption of Gotham. I don't want it to be about Gotham City in the sense that we need to learn all of the backstory of every single villain.
Like why? Like why did Edward Nygma become the Riddler? Like who cares? Like you know, he doesn't get interesting until
Or even if you do show how he becomes the Riddler, save it.
Yeah, exactly.
Save it. And let the show have let it have some legs. Let it run for a bit.
The thing about having, young Bruce as a looming force, and they said a larger role than was originally anticipated. Some people have said that they theorize that Jim Gordon will eventually become like the sort of Batman character of the show, right? He's the crusader for justice. And Bruce Wayne will end up being sort of the Robin role, where he learns from him and kind of becomes his mentee. And people are saying, well, that's where Bruce is going to pick that up so that later when he becomes Batman, he'll know to pick up a partner like Robin, and he'll, And it's like, that's fine, but Bruce Wayne, when he's a little kid, is not that interesting. Something awful happened to him, and he kind of needs to be being raised by Alfred right now, and at some point in his young adulthood decide, I'm going to go travel the world and, train my body. Like, that's what he is. I don't want him to stick around.
Which doesn't happen until he's much older.
Yeah,
this
17, 18.
Yeah, I think in the show he's either 8 or 10.
Sure.
There's a long time before he becomes Batman.
And I mean, it's just a bummer. I mean, and I think that in some of the stories, Bruce Wayne at 9 or 10 years old still gets sent off to different schools around the country. You know, like Alfred sends him around the world.
Troublemaker.
It's a troublemaker.
So he shouldn't technically even be in Gotham.
I mean,
in the
yeah,
show,
dude.
You
It's
know?
just like
I'd rather see that. I'd rather see that dynamic where, or that part of the story where Bruce Wayne is off at boarding school, and it's just Jim and Harvey. We've never gone to see Harvey Bullock.
Harvey Bullock.
It's the first time
Donald
we've seen
Logue.
live action.
Donald Logue.
Yeah, I want to see. I want the show to focus on them and Renee Montoya.
Yes.
And Sarah Essen and the relationship that Jim Gordon has with Barbara, potentially or eventually Barbara Gordon.
Sure.
And
so we'll see.
I want to see that. I want that.
I think that just having Bruce in the show is just a constant reminder. Hey, Batman isn't in this show.
Yeah.
You all love Batman. He's not in this show. It's just a bummer.
It was kind of how I felt about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they kept throwing in like, oh, this story takes place after Thor 2.
Yeah,
Thor. Remember Thor, that guy from the Avengers?
Remember how good that movie was? And then this show can't really.
So
whatever.
I don't know, but in terms of the Joker
so it's
himself,
in that case, like, let's focus on the cops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because of that, let's focus on the cops. Don't focus on who's the character that's going to be the Joker. It's like in a lot of ways it kind of doesn't matter.
No,
they don't come until later for a reason. Like, let's focus on the cops.
And I know they've done Joker's origin story in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
But I kind of like not knowing where the Joker came from. It makes him more mysterious.
Yeah.
It makes him scarier. Save him for later or don't bring him on at all. Next. And then we got Jeremy Renner talking about Hawkeye.
Jeremy Renner, he's the best.
Jeremy Renner, we love Jeremy Renner.
He's really cool, man.
Yeah, man. Like it was cool because he's talking about Joss Whedon's portrayal of Hawkeye in the first movie, and initially when they had talked about the character, he was a little more flushed out.
Sure.
He was a bigger part of the Avengers ensemble.
Yeah.
But then as Joss Whedon kept writing the movie, rewriting
he's like,
the script,
hey, I need a bad guy.
I need a bad guy.
I need a bad guy at the beginning of this.
I'm a little bit overwhelmed with how many characters we got in this Avengers team, so I'm going to take you. I'm going to make you the baddie in the movie.
At least he didn't cut him. Like we're saying, at least he gave Hawkeye
completely cut Hawkeye out, which would
screen
have been
time.
a super bummer.
Sure, and he was a badass.
He was.
And I think taken over.
What we talked about was, if anything, it helped people like that character more because he's a villain, he's a badass villain, and then when he comes back out of that trance that he's in.
Great scene. He's talking about his brains getting all jumbled up and stuff. He had motivation for wanting to go after Loki.
He's distraught by it a little bit.
Distraught by it.
And when he's talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron, he's saying that they were basically able to take all those elements that they had talked about for the first Avengers, put them into Age of Ultron plus more. And
stoked.
I think that's really exciting to see Hawkeye really have a huge. Not a huge, but a much bigger presence in Age of Ultron.
That's great.
And they were also talking about, implementing him into either his own solo movie.
Which he was like, I don't care.
Yeah,
it's
he's
fine.
like, I'm not scratching and clawing for a solo movie. He feels that Hawkeye is a very utility character that can be moved into other people's movies.
Yes, I agree. Hard.
Captain America 3.
And then he winked, and then he winked. He winked.
So he doesn't confirm it, but damn.
Yeah, put him in Cap 3.
Let's do it. I like Black Widow. Yeah. I think she's had her time. I think she's been in Iron Man 2, the Avengers, this and that or the other.
Yeah.
Let's sideline her a little bit.
Sure.
Let's give Hawkeye his moment.
To shine.
Right
Absolutely.
before,
put him in Cap 3.
Exactly. Let's do it.
Put him in Cap 3. I feel like I've been doing this a lot. Like I'm the Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, whoa, we got a badass over here. Like I've been doing this because everything is just so surprised. I agree so hard with Jeremy Renner because to me, the character of Clint Barton, Hawkeye, is the best when he's bouncing off of other characters. He's the best on the Avengers because he's always arguing with Captain America. He's quipping with Iron Man. He's like talking to Thor. Like that's what he's. I mean, I don't know. He probably more than just talks to Thor. Like they have a relationship. But I'm saying he's the best when he works off of other characters. When he eventually like is on the Avengers with Spider-Man, like that's such a great him and Spidey. That's but we'll never see that. Whatever. But even his solo series that is critically acclaimed right now and it's fantastic. It's great because it's just his day off. When he's like in New York, like at his apartment, like what does he deal with? He deals with his neighbors. He deals with his like roommate and friend Kate Bishop, who also calls herself Hawkeye. She's a young Avenger. Like all these great characters that he interacts with. I feel like he's a guy that if you pick him up and you put him on a deserted island, not that interesting of a story.
Right.
But
compared to someone like Wolverine.
Compared to somebody like Wolverine, like what would that be like? And that survival, whatever. Like he can be by himself and it's great. But Hawkeye is at his best when he is bouncing off of other characters, working off other characters. So I think
he's a very,
it's awesome.
very strong supporting character.
If you're gonna pair him up with like one character, it's got to be Black Widow. It's got to be Black Widow. Mm-hmm. And I was saying if. Black Widow was just featured heavily in Captain America: Winter Soldier. She's going to be in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Like you said, let's give her a little bit of a breather. Let's let some other characters, some new female characters, maybe Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, maybe this person or that person. Let's let them shine a little bit. But if you later, a couple years from now, want to give Black Widow her own movie, which would be awesome, and we would all want to see that. put Hawkeye as like the second lead.
Yeah.
But just call the movie
supporting character.
Black Widow.
Yeah.
You know, don't call it Black Widow and
It's
Hawkeye.
like Captain America.
Yeah, the Winter Soldier
had Black Widow,
of course,
but it's not called
basically
Captain America and Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly. So give her own movie, and I'm sure that Clint Barton, Jeremy Renner would be stoked to co-star with her and be in it, and that would be an awesome movie.
Of course. And maybe we'll find out, how they remember Budapest so differently.
Yeah, exactly.
So the final bit is a little bit of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers / Star Trek news. So
right.
Roberto Orci, who's actually going to be directing Star Trek 3, had to leave. He's left Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as executive producer.
To focus on Star Trek.
Exactly.
That's
focus
fine.
on his commitment on Star Trek 3.
That's fine.
Which, I'm okay with it. I don't know exactly how involved Roberto Orci is in the story.
Sure.
They have the writers of X-Men First Class doing the story. I think the only thing that it maybe loses is just a little bit of credibility because of all the movies that Roberto Orci has been involved in.
He is a name. He's a name writer right now. He's a big guy.
For sure he's a name. And, he's executive produced Star Trek.
Yeah.
All Star Trek movies, I believe also the Transformers movies, aside from just writing them.
Sure, okay.
I think he executive produced them.
All right.
But yeah, so if anything, it loses a little bit of credibility. I don't think it's really going to change what Lionsgate is doing in terms of their timetable.
I'm sure he showed up and had a pitch and just kind of said his piece and then dropped the mic and they're like, "Cool, we're going to run with it." I don't think anything's nothing's out of control. Like, we don't have Roberto Orci on
exactly. They'll
Power
find
Rangers.
They'll find another producer.
They'll find it.
But the other bit was the potential of having William Shatner, the original Captain Kirk.
Everyone knows who William Shatner is, Adam.
Well,
Get out of here. Cool. As a Star Trek fan, I think that here's why I think this is okay. Because if this movie comes out when they want it to come out, it'll be 2016. That's the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. And it would just be fan service. And as long as it's done well, it would be awesome. I brought up the example of Skyfall.
You brought up an excellent
example. Skyfall was written with a character, the groundskeeper. The groundskeeper of Skyfall, and it was intended for Sean Connery to come out of retirement and play the role, and it would have been awesome. Would it have taken us out of the movie? A little bit, kind of, but like you said, he looks so different from what, it would have been
like
Daniel Craig. It would have been Daniel Craig Bond, Sean Connery groundskeeper, and M as fending off Silva. It would have been the coolest thing. Javier Bardem. It would have been such a great way to sort of
a multi-generational
it's such a beautiful homage to Bond 50th anniversary. And then the way that movie ended Bond, it's like now we know where to go. If they find a way to do something like that with William Shatner, and I was saying that really the only way to do that,
it's a really great.
I'll pitch it. I mean, it's not a great idea. I feel like it is only logical, Adam, to do it in this way. But Captain Kirk, his character died on screen 20 years ago, believe it or not, 1994, played by William Shatner when Shatner was 50. Now the dude's 70. So we've seen him die. William Shatner's Kirk has died and has lived, and we've seen his whole life basically. The only way they could bring back Shatner as he is now, as a 70-year-old actor, would be to do something where it's maybe a far future of the Chris Pine, Captain Kirk, and Zachary Quinto, Spock characters. What happens, when they themselves get older? Will Kirk have died in the same way? No, probably not, because again, it's a different. This is Chris Pine Kirk we're talking about, so maybe he does get to live to 70 instead of dying at 50. And then Zachary Quinto Spock will of course be played by Leonard Nimoy, who's still around, thank God. So they could do something like that as maybe a nice little. I don't know if there's necessarily going to be time travel involved in their own time. I don't know how that's going to work, but
maybe a storyline from the future that will again affect the past.
Maybe a bookending Hobbit Bilbo Baggins thing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe just something of where the movie ends and then it's they'll say 50 years later or 60 or 40 years later, these are the characters and they're meeting up and I don't know. Maybe Kirk's got kids up and grown and running around in the way that original Kirk didn't get to have that in his life. Just whatever they want to do. Yeah. But I would still hope that at the end of this Star Trek 3 movie that there's still a way to say, hey, we've got Chris Pine, we've got Zachary Quinto, we've got Zoe Saldana, we've got a great young cast. We're going to keep making Star Trek movies. The way Skyfall ended, and you're like, yes, bring it more. Yeah. Something like that. So that's really the only way I think you could bring in Shatner, and the way that I would be okay with it is if it was that sort of Skyfall homage that we never got to see with Connery, but would have been awesome. Whatever, we'll see.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for us, guys, before Hector dies. Chokes to death. You all right?
I'm good.
That's going to wrap it up. But if you guys want to subscribe to our channel, we'd love everyone to jump on board and let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/thefilmpundits. Also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under The Film Pundits.
Yep. Where can they find you on Twitter, buddy?
Ooh, I get to go first this time.
Yeah, where can they find you on Twitter?
You guys can find me on all social media just under Adam Havoc.
And you guys can find me on Twitter @HectorIsFunny.
because he is. And it's his birthday, so you should wish him a happy birthday.
Oh,
belated or not, damn it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
But until next time, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.